The stars looked cold and empty through the cracked window of the Altarian ship Harmony's Dream. Chief Navigator Hyun-woo pressed his blue hand against the damaged glass and felt the ship shake again. Another explosion echoed through the metal. Halls! The Krek ships were still out there, waiting. "Sir, we lost another power cell," said young engineer Min-soo, his voice shaking. The boy was barely past his first spaceflight, and now he was watching their ship die, piece by piece. Hyun-woo turned from the window. The bridge was dark except for a few red emergency lights. Half the control panels were broken. Smoke filled the air, making everyone cough. Captain So-jin lay unconscious in her chair, a bandage wrapped around her head where metal had hit her during the attack. "How many people are left?" Hyun-woo asked. 300, sir. Maybe less." The communications officer, a thin woman named Yeon-hee, looked up from her station. "The Kreks destroyed the entire back section of the ship. All those families—" Hyun-woo closed his eyes. The Harmony's Dream had been carrying 800 Altarian colonists to their new homeworld. Men, women, children, all hoping for a better life on a peaceful planet far from the war zones. Now most of them were dead, killed by Krek's raiders who attacked without warning. The Kreks were the worst kind of aliens. They lived only to fight and destroy. They had no honor, no mercy. They attacked weak ships like theirs just for fun. Everyone in the galaxy knew to run when Krek's ships appeared. But the Harmony's Dream was too slow, carrying too many people. They never had a chance. "Sir, the Kreks are moving closer," said Min-soo. His young face was pale with fear. "Our shields are almost gone. Maybe 10 minutes before they break through." Hyun-woo looked around the bridge. These people trusted him to keep them alive. But what could he do? Their weapons were gone. Their engines were damaged. They couldn't run and they couldn't fight. "Have we tried all the emergency channels?" he asked Yeon-hee. "Yes, sir. I sent distress calls on every frequency we know. The Galactic Council, the Trade Federation, even the Zephyr Defense Force. No one answered. We're too far from civilized space." Hyun-woo felt hopeless. The Kreks would break through their shields soon. Then they would board the ship and kill everyone. Altarians were peaceful people. They had no weapons training, no fighting skills. They would die like helpless animals. But then he remembered something. An old story his grandfather told him when he was young. A legend about mysterious aliens from the edge of the galaxy. People called them the Deathworlders. "Yeon-hee," he said slowly. "Do you know about the ancient emergency beacon?" She looked confused. "Sir? There's an old system built into every ship. From the early days of space travel, it was supposed to call for help from anyone who might be listening, even unknown species. But sir, that's just a myth. No one uses those old frequencies anymore." The Deathworlders might. The bridge went quiet. Everyone had heard whispers about the Deathworlders. They came from a planet so dangerous that it killed most life forms. The aliens who survived became the most feared warriors in the galaxy. Even the Kreks were afraid of them. Most people thought they were just stories, legends to scare children. But some traders claimed they had seen their ships, black vessels that moved like hunting animals, ships that could destroy entire fleets without taking damage. "Sir," Yeon-hee whispered, "what if the stories are true? What if they're as dangerous as people say?" "They can't be worse than the Kreks," Hyun-woo said. "At least the Deathworlders only kill their enemies. The Kreks kill everyone." Another explosion shook the ship. The lights flickered and went out for a moment. When they came back on, alarms were screaming. Their shields were failing faster now. "Do it," Hyun-woo ordered. "Send the signal on the old emergency frequency." Yeon-hee's hands shook as she worked her controls. The ancient beacon system was hard to find. Most modern ships had forgotten it existed. But the Harmony's Dream was an old ship, built when people still believed in helping strangers. "I found it, sir. Sending the emergency signal now." The message went out into space, traveling faster than light across the dark emptiness between stars. It was simple and desperate. "This is Altarian Colony. Ship Harmony's Dream. We are under attack by Krek's raiders. 300 civilians need immediate help. Anyone who receives this message, please respond." For long minutes, nothing happened. The Krek's ships moved closer. Their shields dropped to 5%, then 3%. The enemy was getting ready for the final attack. "Sir," Minsu called out, "the Kreks are charging their boarding weapons. They'll break through in 2 minutes." Hyunwoo felt defeat settle over him like a heavy blanket. The beacon had been their last hope. But no one was coming. The Deathworlders were just stories after all. Then, Yeon-hee gasped. "Sir, I'm getting a response." "What? From who?" I don't know. The signal is strong, but the language is strange." "Wait, they're switching to Galactic Standard." The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through, speaking in perfect Galactic Standard, but with an accent no one recognized. The voice was calm and cold, like winter wind. "Altarian Vessel Harmony's Dream. This is Admiral Dong-hyun of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We received your distress call. Help is coming. Hold your position and prepare for immediate evacuation." The bridge was silent except for the sound of breathing. Terran? No one had ever heard of that species before. "Sir," Yeon-hee whispered, "should I respond?" Before Hyunwoo could answer, alarms started screaming throughout the ship. But these weren't damage alarms. These were proximity warnings. Something big was coming out of hyperspace. On the main screen, space itself began to tear open. Bright blue light poured through the cracks as ships emerged from hyperspace. But these weren't like any ships they had ever seen. The vessels were huge and black, shaped like hunting animals. They moved with deadly grace, spreading out in perfect formation. The lead ship was massive, bigger than anything the Altarians had ever imagined. Strange symbols glowed along its hull. "How many ships?" Hyunwoo asked. Minsu checked his sensors, then checked them again. 16 ships, sir. 12 smaller ones and 4 big ones, and that huge one in the center." The Kreks ships had stopped their attack. They were turning to face the new arrivals. But even through the static of their damaged communications, Hyunwoo could hear fear in the Kreks transmissions. "This is impossible," one Kreks commander was saying. "The Deathworlders never come this far from their territory." "Retreat!" another voice screamed. "Get us out of here now!" But it was too late. The black ships were already moving, spreading, out like a hunting pack. Their weapons came online with a sound like thunder. Energy readings that shouldn't exist filled the Altarians' sensors. The voice came over the radio again, still calm and cold. "Altarian vessel, this is Admiral Dong-hyun. Move away from the Kreks ships immediately. We are about to engage the enemy." Hyunwoo looked around the bridge. His people stared back at him with hope in their eyes for the first time since the attack. Began. "Yeon-hee, send a message back. Tell them we understand and thank them." "Yes, sir." As the Harmony's Dream used its remaining power to move away from the battle area, Hyunwoo watched the black ships position themselves. The Deathworlders were real, and they had come to help. He just hoped they were as dangerous to their enemies as the stories claimed. Admiral Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, his hands behind his back as he watched the main screen. The Altarian distress signal had reached them 3 hours ago. Now his fleet was ready for battle. "Status report," he said in his calm voice. "All ships in position, sir," replied Tactical Officer Ji-hai. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls, checking weapons systems and shield strength. "The Kreks have 8 heavy cruisers and 20 fighters. They think they have the advantage." Dong-hyun almost smiled. The Kreks always thought they had the advantage. It was their biggest weakness. "Communications. Connect me to the fleet." "Yes, sir," said Tae-min from his station. His young face was serious as he opened the channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Dong-hyun. We have 16 ships against 28. Kreks vessels. Some might call that unfair." He paused, looking at his officers. "They're right. The Kreks don't stand a chance." Quiet laughter came through the speakers from the other ships. The human crews were ready for battle. They had been hunting Kreks raiders for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now they had found Kreks, ships attacking helpless civilians. It was exactly what they had hoped for. "Remember the rules," Dong-hyun continued. "Protect the civilians first, then destroy every Kreks ship. No surrenders, no prisoners. They chose to attack innocent people." "Understood, sir," came the replies from his ship captains. Dong-hyun turned to his communications officer. "Tae-min, inform Fleet Command that we are engaging Kreks forces. Tell them we expect total victory. Sir, should I mention the civilian ship we're protecting? Of course. Tell them we found Altarians under attack. That should explain everything. As Taemin sent the message, something else was happening across the galaxy. The news that humans were moving spread faster than their ships traveled. Every alien species had spies and information networks. Within minutes, the word was out. On the Centauri trade station, a vegan merchant dropped his drink when he heard the news. The Deathworlders are mobilizing, he whispered to his friend. Who made them angry this time? In the halls of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Thecalon received an urgent message. His blue skin turned pale as he read it. Emergency session, he announced to his aide. The humans are going to war again. Even the Krex Dominion heard the news. Supreme War Chief Vextal slammed his clawed fist on his command table when the report reached him. Impossible. Our raiders were told to stay away from human space. How did they find us? His intelligence officer, a nervous alien named Krill, checked his datapad. Sir, our ships attacked an Altarian colony vessel in the Outer Rim. The humans must have been monitoring emergency frequencies. Fools! Vextal roared. Everyone knows you don't attack civilians where the Deathworlders can hear you. But it was too late. The human fleet was already dropping out of hyperspace around the battle site. Back on the Soul's Vengeance, the crew watched as space tore open around them. The sensation of leaving hyperspace always felt strange, like falling and flying at the same time. But they were used to it. Human ships jumped faster and more accurately than any other species in the galaxy. Drop successful, reported the navigation officer. All ships accounted for. Sensors. What do you see? Dong-hyun asked. The Altarian ship is badly damaged but still intact, Ji-hee replied, studying her screens. Life signs show about 300 survivors. The Krex have them surrounded. 8 heavy cruisers, 20 fighters. Just like our intelligence said. And they haven't noticed us yet? Sir, they're about to. On the Krex command ship, alarms started screaming. Commander Zektor stared at his sensor display in horror. 16 unknown ships had appeared from nowhere, moving in perfect formation. Identify those vessels, he ordered. His sensor operator's voice shook with fear. Sir, they're human ships. Terran fleet markings. They're Deathworlders. The bridge went silent. Every Krex warrior had heard stories about the humans. They came from a planet so deadly that it created the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Their ships were black as space and twice as deadly. They never retreated, never surrendered, and never showed mercy to those who harmed the innocent. All ships retreat immediately, Zektor ordered. Get us out of here. But human ships moved faster than Krex vessels. Before the raiders could charge their jump engines, the enemy was already in attack formation. The human admiral's voice came over the emergency frequency, speaking perfect galactic standard. Krex vessels, this is Admiral Dong-hyun of the Terran Expeditionary Force. You have attacked civilian ships in violation of galactic law. Surrender now or be destroyed. Commander Zektor felt sweat dripping down his face. But he was Krex. His species had ruled through fear for 1,000 years. He couldn't show weakness now. Human Admiral, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. You are outnumbered. We have 28 ships to your 16. Leave now, and we'll let you go. The response came back immediately, and Zektor could hear amusement in the human's voice. Commander, you seem to have miscounted. You don't have 28 ships. You have 28 targets. On the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, Dong-hyun turned to his tactical officer. Ji-hee, are all weapons ready? Yes, sir. Kinetic guns loaded, plasma cannons charged, torpedo tubes ready. And the civilians? The Altarian ship is moving away from the battle zone as ordered. Good. Dong-hyun looked at the main screen, where the Krex ships were trying to form a defensive formation. They were too slow and too frightened to do it properly. All ships, you are free to engage. The space around them lit up as human weapons came online. Energy readings that made no sense to alien technology filled the area. The Krex sensors screamed warnings about impossible power levels. Sir, whispered the Krex sensor operator, their weapons are reading at levels that shouldn't exist. How is that possible? Commander Zektor didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the tactical display. The human ships were moving like living things, each one covering the others in a pattern too complex for his mind to follow. Then the first. Shots fired and everything changed. The humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't try to disable enemy ships or force surrenders. They aimed to kill, using weapons that tore through Krek's armor like it was made of paper. Evasive maneuvers. Zektor screamed. But it was already too late. A human torpedo hit his ship's shield generator. The explosion sent him flying across the bridge. When he got up, half his crew was dead, and his ship was spinning out of control. "Damage report!" He called out. "Shields down, engines failing, weapons offline," his engineer reported. "Sir, we need to abandon ship." But there was nowhere to run. The human ships were everywhere, moving like sharks in the water. They struck with perfect precision, hitting weak points that the Kreks didn't even know they had. In less than 5 minutes, 3 Kreks cruisers were destroyed and 2 more were dead in space. The human ships hadn't even taken damage. Commander Zektor finally understood why everyone in the galaxy feared the Deathworlders. They didn't just fight to win. They fought like the universe was trying to kill them, and they were fighting back. With everything they had. The battle was almost over before it really began, and the humans were just getting started. Admiral Dong Hyun stood on the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, his hands behind his back, as he watched the main screen. The Altarian distress signal had reached them 3 hours ago. Now his fleet was ready for battle. "Status report," he said, in his calm voice. "All ships in position, sir," replied Tactical Officer Ji-Hai. Her fingers moved quickly over her controls, checking weapons systems and shield strength. "The Kreks have 8 heavy cruisers and 20 fighters. They think they have the advantage." Dong-Hyun almost smiled. The Kreks always thought they had the advantage. It was their biggest weakness. "Communications. Connect me to the fleet." "Yes, sir," said Tae-min from his station. His young face was serious as he opened the channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Dong-Hyun. We have 16 ships against 28. Kreks vessels. Some might call that unfair." He paused, looking at his officers. "They're right. The Kreks don't stand a chance." Quiet laughter came through the speakers from the other ships. The human crews were ready for battle. They had been hunting Kreks raiders for months, waiting for the right moment to strike. Now they had found Kreks, ships attacking helpless civilians. It was exactly what they had hoped for. "Remember the rules," Dong-Hyun continued. "Protect the civilians first, then destroy every Kreks ship. No surrenders, no prisoners. They chose to attack innocent people." "Understood, sir," came the replies from his ship captains. Dong-Hyun turned to his communications officer. "Tae-min, inform Fleet Command that we are engaging Kreks forces. Tell them we expect total victory." "Sir, should I mention the civilian ship we're protecting?" "Of course. Tell them we found Altarians under attack. That should explain everything." As Tae-min sent the message, something else was happening across the galaxy. The news that humans were moving spread faster than their ships traveled. Every alien species had spies and information networks. Within minutes, the word was out. On the Centauri trade station, a vegan merchant dropped his drink when he heard the news. "The Deathworlders are mobilizing," he whispered to his friend. "Who made them angry this time?" In the halls of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Thecalon received an urgent message. His blue skin turned pale as he read it. "Emergency session," he announced to his aide. "The humans are going to war again." Even the Kreks Dominion heard the news. Supreme War Chief Vextal slammed his clawed fist on his command table when the report reached him. "Impossible. Our raiders were told to stay away from human space. How did they find us?" His intelligence officer, a nervous alien named Krill, checked his datapad. "Sir, our ships attacked an Altarian colony vessel in the Outer Rim. The humans must have been monitoring emergency frequencies." "Fools!" Vextal roared. "Everyone knows you don't attack civilians where the Deathworlders can hear you." But it was too late. The human fleet was already dropping out of hyperspace around the battle site. Back on the Soul's Vengeance, the crew watched as space tore open around them. The sensation of leaving hyperspace always felt strange, like falling and flying at the same time. But they were used to it. Human ships jumped faster and more accurately than any other species in the galaxy. "Drop successful," reported the navigation officer. "All ships accounted for." Sensors. What do you see? Dong-hyun asked. The Altarian ship is badly damaged but still intact, Ji-hee replied, studying her screens. Life signs show about 300 survivors. The Kreks have them surrounded. 8 heavy cruisers, 20 fighters. Just like our intelligence said. And they haven't noticed us yet? Sir, they're about to. On the Kreks command ship, alarms started screaming. Commander Zektor stared at his sensor display in horror. 16 unknown ships had appeared from nowhere, moving in perfect formation. Identify those vessels, he ordered. His sensor operator's voice shook with fear. Sir, they're human ships. Terran fleet markings. They're Deathworlders. The bridge went silent. Every Kreks warrior had heard stories about the humans. They came from a planet so deadly that it created the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Their ships were black as space and twice as deadly. They never retreated, never surrendered, and never showed mercy to those who harmed the innocent. All ships retreat immediately, Zektor ordered. Get us out of here. But human ships moved faster than Kreks vessels. Before the raiders could charge their jump engines, the enemy was already in attack formation. The human admiral's voice came over the emergency frequency, speaking perfect galactic standard. Kreks vessels, this is Admiral Dong-hyun of the Terran Expeditionary Force. You have attacked civilian ships in violation of galactic law. Surrender now or be destroyed. Commander Zektor felt sweat dripping down his face. But he was Kreks. His species had ruled through fear for 1,000 years. He couldn't show weakness now. Human Admiral, he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. You are outnumbered. We have 28 ships to your 16. Leave now, and we'll let you go. The response came back immediately, and Zektor could hear amusement in the human's voice. Commander, you seem to have miscounted. You don't have 28 ships. You have 28 targets. On the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, Dong-hyun turned to his tactical officer. Ji-hee, are all weapons ready? Yes, sir. Kinetic guns loaded, plasma cannons charged, torpedo tubes ready. And the civilians? The Altarian ship is moving away from the battle zone as ordered. Good. Dong-hyun looked at the main screen, where the Kreks ships were trying to form a defensive formation. They were too slow and too frightened to do it properly. All ships, you are free to engage. The space around them lit up as human weapons came online. Energy readings that made no sense to alien technology filled the area. The Kreks sensors screamed warnings about impossible power levels. Sir, whispered the Kreks sensor operator, their weapons are reading at levels that shouldn't exist. How is that possible? Commander Zektor didn't answer. He was too busy staring at the tactical display. The human ships were moving like living things, each one covering the others in a pattern too complex for his mind to follow. Then the first. Shots fired and everything changed. The humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't try to disable enemy ships or force surrenders. They aimed to kill, using weapons that tore through Kreks' armor like it was made of paper. Evasive maneuvers. Zektor screamed. But it was already too late. A human torpedo hit his ship's shield generator. The explosion sent him flying across the bridge. When he got up, half his crew was dead, and his ship was spinning out of control. Damage report! He called out. Shields down, engines failing, weapons offline, his engineer reported. Sir, we need to abandon ship! But there was nowhere to run. The human ships were everywhere, moving like sharks in the water. They struck with perfect precision, hitting weak points that the Kreks didn't even know they had. In less than 5 minutes, 3 Kreks cruisers were destroyed and 2 more were dead in space. The human ships hadn't even taken damage. Commander Zektor finally understood why everyone in the galaxy feared the Deathworlders. They didn't just fight to win. They fought like the universe was trying to kill them, and they were fighting back. With everything they had. The battle was almost over before it really began, and the humans were just getting started. The black ships moved through space like hunters stalking their prey. Each vessel was a work of deadly art, their hulls absorbing light instead of reflecting it. They seemed to drink in the starlight, becoming one with the darkness between worlds. On the Altarian ship Harmony's Dream, Navigator Hyunwoo pressed his face to the observation window. His breath fogged the glass as he watched the human fleet spread out in perfect formation. Each ship knew exactly where to go, like parts of a single mind working together. They're beautiful, whispered young engineer Minsu, standing beside him. But also terrifying. Hyunwoo nodded. The ships looked like the great predators from old Altarian legends, creatures that hunted in the deep oceans of their homeworld, moving with deadly grace through the water. But these hunters moved through space itself. "Sir," called Communications Officer Yeon-hee from her station. "The humans are trying to contact us again. Put them through." The voice that came over the speakers was different from the Admiral's. This one belonged to a woman, and it sounded warmer, more gentle. "Altarian vessel Harmony's Dream, this is Captain Yoo-jin of the medical ship Busan Rising. We're coming alongside to begin emergency evacuation. Please prepare your wounded for transport." Hyunwoo felt relief wash over him. Medical ship meant doctors, medicine, safety. "Thank you, Captain Yoo-jin. We have many wounded people who need help. We'll take care of them. Just stay calm and follow our instructions." Through the window, Hyunwoo could see one of the human ships moving closer. It was smaller than the others, but still huge compared to their damaged vessel. Strange symbols glowed along its hull, and he could see movement through its transparent sections. "Look at their ship," Minsu said in wonder. "It's like nothing I've ever seen." The human medical ship was indeed strange. Where Altarian ships were built for comfort and beauty, this vessel was built for efficiency. Every line, every curve had a purpose. There was no wasted space, no unnecessary decorations. It was a tool designed by people who lived in a world where tools meant survival. On the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, Admiral Dong-hyun watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The Krex ships were trying to form a defensive line, but they were too slow and too frightened to do it properly. "Sir," reported Tactical Officer Ji-hai, "the Krex are attempting to retreat. 3 ships are charging their jump engines. Stop them. No one leaves." "Yes, sir." The order went out to the fleet. Immediately, 4 human destroyers broke formation and moved to intercept the fleeing Krex vessels. Their engines flared with blue fire as they accelerated to impossible speeds. Marine Colonel Min-ho stood in the weapons bay of the destroyer Daigu's Fury, watching his troops prepare for battle. They were human Marines, the most feared ground fighters in the galaxy. Each one was trained from childhood to fight in environments that would kill most aliens in minutes. "Listen up," he told his soldiers. "We might need to board enemy ships. Remember the rules. Krex don't surrender, so don't expect them to. They chose to attack civilians, so they chose to die." His Marines nodded. They were young men and women who had grown up hearing stories about their enemies. The Krex who killed entire colonies for fun. The slavers who stole children from their homes. The raiders who attacked ships full of families just because they could. These humans had no sympathy for such creatures. Back on the Harmony's Dream, Captain So-jin had finally woken up. The Altarian captain sat in her chair, a bandage wrapped around her head, staring at the main screen in amazement. "Hyunwoo," she said weakly, "are those really human ships?" "Yes, Captain. They came when we sent the emergency signal." "I thought they were just stories." "So did I." On the screen, they could see the human fleet moving into attack position. The ships spread out like the fingers of a giant hand, each one covering the others. Their weapons were already charging, energy readings climbing to levels that made the Altarian sensors scream warnings. "Sir," Yeon-hee called out, "I'm reading massive power buildups from all the human ships. Their weapons are... I don't understand. These readings?" "What do you mean?" Hyunwoo asked. "The energy levels don't make sense. According to our sensors, each of their ships has more firepower than our entire defense fleet back home." Captain So-jin shook her head in disbelief. "How is that possible? They only have 16 ships. Maybe they don't need more," Hyunwoo said quietly. The truth was becoming clear as they watched. The humans didn't fight like other species. Most galactic civilizations tried to capture enemy ships when possible, to study their technology or take prisoners. They used weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. But these ships were built for only one purpose: total destruction of their enemies. Engineer Yoo-jin stood on the bridge of the medical ship, watching her sensors as they approached the damaged Altarian vessel. She was a small woman with kind eyes, but her hands moved over the controls with the precision of someone who had done this many times before. "Scan complete," she reported to her crew. 300 life signs, 47 seriously wounded, 12 critical. Prepare the medical bays. Dr. Kyung-soo is ready, replied her medical officer. We can handle all the wounded. Good. Begin docking procedures. As the human medical ship connected with the Harmony's Dream, the Altarians felt a strange vibration through their hull. It was gentle but firm, like the grip of a strong friend, helping them to safety. Through the airlock came the first human the Altarians had ever seen in person. Dr. Kyung-soo was a middle-aged man with gray hair and gentle hands. Behind him came nurses and medical technicians, all carrying strange equipment. Don't be afraid, the doctor said in perfect Altarian, smiling at the wounded civilians. We're here to help. The Altarians stared in wonder. These were the legendary Deathworlders. They looked so normal, so kind. But then again, the most dangerous predators often looked harmless until they struck. Doctor, Hyun-woo said carefully, we're grateful for your help. But why did you come? We're strangers to you. Dr. Kyung-soo looked surprised by the question. You sent a distress call. People were in danger. Why wouldn't we come? It was such a simple answer, but it confused the Altarians. Most species in the galaxy only help their own kind. The strong survived, and the weak were forgotten. That was the way of things, but apparently humans thought differently. On the main tactical display, the Krek ships were finally ready for battle. Commander Zektor had managed to form his remaining vessels into a defensive formation. He had 25 ships left, including his flagship. All vessels target the largest human ship, he ordered. If we can destroy their flagship, the others might retreat. It was a good plan, the kind that worked against most species. Cut off the head, and the body would die. But humans weren't like most species. Admiral Dong-hyun received the report from his sensors. Sir, the Kreks are targeting us with all their heavy weapons. Let them, Dong-hyun replied calmly. Ji-hee, are our shields ready? Yes, sir. Full power. Then let's show them what they're really fighting. The first Krek's volley hit the Soul's Vengeance with the force of a small star. Energy beams and plasma bolts struck the human flagship from all sides. The ship shook, but its shields held without even flickering. On the Krek's command ship, Sensors operator Krill stared at his display in horror. Sir, their shields absorbed the entire attack. No damage at all. Commander Zektor felt ice in his stomach. That had been their best shot, all their heavy ships firing at once, and it had done nothing. Impossible, he whispered. The human admiral's voice came over the communication channel again, still calm and cold. Our turn. The last Krek ship exploded in a burst of orange flame, and suddenly space was quiet again. Where 28 enemy vessels had been, now there was only debris and fading energy signatures. The human fleet floated in perfect formation, their weapons still glowing but no longer firing. On the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, Admiral Dong-hyun studied the tactical display. Not a single red dot remained on the screen. Every Krek's ship was destroyed. Casualty report, he ordered. Tactical. Officer Ji-hai checked her screens. 0 casualties, sir. Minor damage to the destroyer Gwangju's hammer, but nothing serious. All other ships report green status. 0 casualties. The Altarians listening to the communication channels couldn't believe it. The humans had just destroyed an entire enemy fleet without losing a single person. Sir, Communications Officer Taemin called out, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. News of the battle is spreading fast. What kind of messages? Mostly fear, sir. The Vegan Trade Council wants to know if we're expanding our territory. The Galactic Council is requesting an emergency session. And the Krek's Dominion... Taemin paused, looking confused. Sir, they're withdrawing all their ships from this sector. Admiral Dong-hyun nodded with satisfaction. Good. Maybe other raiders would learn from this example. And the Altarians? They're requesting permission to approach, sir. They want to thank us personally. On the medical ship Busan Rising, Captain Wu Jin worked with his crew to transfer the wounded Altarians to proper medical facilities. The humans moved with gentle efficiency, treating each patient like they were family members. Young engineer Min Soo watched in amazement as human medical technology worked on his injured friends. Machines that could heal broken bones in minutes. Medicines that stopped pain instantly. Tools that seemed to read his people's minds and know exactly what they needed. How do you have such advanced medicine? He asked Dr. Kyung-soo. The doctor smiled sadly. When you come from a world where everything is trying to kill you, you get very good at healing. We had to be. What's your home world like? Dr. Kyung-soo thought for a moment. Imagine a planet where the air itself can poison you, where the weather changes from burning hot to freezing cold in hours, where the animals are all predators, the plants are toxic, and even the water can kill you if you're not careful. Min-soo's eyes went wide. How did your people survive? By becoming harder to kill than anything else on the planet, by learning to work together, by never giving up, no matter how hopeless things seemed. The young Altarian began to understand. Humans weren't just warriors. They were survivors from a world that had tried to destroy them for millions of years. Every challenge that would have killed other species had just made them stronger. Navigator Hyun-woo stood on the bridge of the Harmony's Dream, watching as human rescue ships approached. Captain Yoo-jin's voice came over the speakers, warm and reassuring. Altarian vessel, we're ready to begin full evacuation. Our medical ships can care for all your wounded, and our transport vessels have room for your entire population. Thank you, Hyun-woo replied. But where will you take us? Wherever you want to go. Your homeworld, a colony planet, a space station, your choice. It was such a simple offer, but it amazed the Altarians. Most species would demand payment for such help, or ask for political favors, or try to gain some advantage. The humans just wanted to help people who needed it. Captain Yoo-jin, Hyun-woo said carefully, can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you come? We're strangers. We have nothing to offer you. Why risk your ships and people for us? There was a long pause. Then Captain Yoo-jin's voice came back, sounding surprised by the question. Because you needed help, she said simply. That's what people do. They help each other. On the rescue ship Daegu Hope, Medic Hae-won worked to comfort Altarian children who had lost their parents in the attack. She was a small woman with kind eyes, and she seemed to know exactly what each child needed to feel safe again. Will the bad ships come back? Asked a young Altarian girl, holding tight to a stuffed animal. No, sweetheart, Hae-won said softly. The bad ships are all gone, and we'll make sure you get home safely. How do you know they won't come back? Hae-won smiled. Because now they know what happens when they hurt innocent people. They know that humans are watching, and we don't let bullies win. The child seemed to understand. She had seen the human ships destroy the monsters that attacked her family. She had watched these strange aliens risk everything to save people they had never met. Are all humans like you? The girl asked. Most of us, yes. We believe that good people should help each other, and bad people should be stopped. In the command center of the Soul's Vengeance, Admiral Dong-hyun received a priority message from Earth Command. He read it quickly, then called his senior officers to the briefing room. Orders from home, he announced. We're to escort the Altarian survivors to safety, then return to patrol duty in this sector. Sir, asked Commander Jae-sung. What about the Krek's response? They'll want revenge for their destroyed fleet. Let them come, Dong-hyun replied coldly. Maybe this time. They'll bring enough ships to make it interesting. The truth was, the Admiral wasn't worried about Krek's revenge. The galaxy's raiders and pirates were bullies at heart. They only attacked targets they thought were weak. After today, everyone would know that attacking civilians under human protection was suicide. Dr. Kyung-soo finished treating the last, wounded Altarian, and sat down for a moment to rest. The battle had been over quickly, but the rescue operation was taking hours. Every patient needed careful attention. Every injury had to be properly treated. Min-soo approached him with a question. That had been bothering him. Doctor, I've been thinking about what you said, about your home world trying to kill you. How did that make you into healers? The doctor smiled. When death is always close, you learn to value life. When you see friends hurt by things you can't control, you learn to fix the things you can control. We became good at medicine because we had to be. And the fighting? The weapons? Same reason. When you grow up surrounded by predators, you learn to be a better predator. When bullies threaten your family, you learn to stop bullies permanently. Min-soo nodded slowly. The humans were starting to make sense to him. They were gentle because they knew what suffering felt like. They were dangerous because they had learned to survive in a universe that didn't care if they lived or died. As the evacuation continued, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. On trading stations and colony worlds, aliens gathered around communication screens to hear the reports. 16 human ships destroyed 28 Krex vessels without losing a single fighter. The Deathworlders appeared within minutes of receiving a distress call. The Krex fleet was completely annihilated. No survivors, no prisoners, no mercy. On the Centauri trade station, a group of merchants discussed the implications. "This changes everything," said a Vegan trader. "The humans aren't just protecting their own territory anymore, they're responding to distress calls from anyone." "That's good news for honest traders," replied his companion, "but bad news for pirates." "The Krex Dominion has already issued new orders," added a third merchant. "No attacks on civilian vessels in any sector where humans might respond." Similar conversations were happening across known space. The humans had sent a message that every species could understand. Innocent people were under their protection, whether they were human or not. Back on the Harmony's Dream, Captain So-Jin sat in her chair, finally well enough to watch the evacuation. Her ship was dying, but her people were safe. The humans were taking everyone to medical facilities where they could heal properly. "Sir," said Navigator Hyunwoo, "Captain Yoo-Jin wants to know if you'd like to come aboard her ship for medical treatment." So-Jin looked around her bridge one last time. This ship had been her home for 5 years. Now it would drift in space. Forever, a monument to those who had died. "Yes," she said quietly. "Let's go." As the last Altarians transferred to human ships, Admiral Dong-hyun sent a final message to Fleet Command. "Mission accomplished, all civilians rescued, enemy fleet destroyed, no human casualties, proceeding to escort duty." It was a simple report, but it would become legend. The day the Deathworlders proved that they were more than just warriors. They were guardians, protecting the innocent wherever they found them. And across the galaxy, those who preyed on the weak learned a lesson they would never forget. The humans were watching, and they never forgot their friends. 3 days later, the human fleet arrived at the Altarian homeworld. The planet called Peaceful Harbor floated in space like a blue and green jewel, its surface covered with cities that looked like gardens. It was everything the name suggested, a world where violence was almost unknown. Admiral Dong-hyun stood on the bridge of the Soul's Vengeance, watching as his ships moved into orbit. Behind them came the transport vessels carrying 300 survivors from the Harmony's Dream. The wounded had been healed, the frightened had been comforted, and now they were home. "Sir," reported Communications Officer Tae-min, "we're receiving messages from the planetary government. They want to hold a ceremony in our honor." "Politely decline," Dong-hyun replied. "We did what anyone should do. We don't need rewards for helping people." "They're also asking why we came so far to help strangers." Admiral Dong-hyun thought about that question. It was one that many species asked about humans. Why did they risk their lives for people they had never met? Why did they fight battles that weren't their own? "Tell them," he said finally, "that someone needed help and we were available." On the transport ship Busan Hope, Navigator Hyunwoo prepared to return to his home world. The past few days had changed him in ways he was still trying to understand. He had seen the most feared warriors in the galaxy risk everything to save his people. But more than that, he had seen them be gentle with children, careful with the wounded, and patient with the scared. They were nothing like the stories made them seem. "Sir," said young engineer Min-soo, approaching with a question, "when we get home, what will we tell people about the humans?" Hyunwoo looked out the window at the black ships escorting them to safety. How could he explain what he had witnessed? How could he make people understand? "We'll tell them the truth," he said, "that the most dangerous people in the galaxy are also the most honorable." Down on Peaceful Harbor, the Altarian government was in emergency session. President Yunmi sat at the head of a table surrounded by advisors, all trying to understand what had happened. "The reports make no sense," said Defense Minister Tae-ho. 16 ships destroying 28 Krex vessels without taking casualties? It's impossible." "The survivors all tell the same story," replied Foreign Minister Hye-jin. "The humans appeared within hours of the distress call. They destroyed the entire Krex fleet and rescued everyone." "But why?" President Yunmi asked. "What do they want from us?" Nothing, apparently. They're not asking for trade agreements, military alliances, or territorial rights. They helped us because we needed help. The room fell silent. In a galaxy where every action had a price, where every favor came with obligations, the human response made no sense. Perhaps, said elderly advisor Wanshik, that's exactly why the galaxy fears them. They're not predictable. They don't follow the rules that everyone else lives by. On the medical ship, Dr. Kyung-soo finished his final examination of Captain So-jin. The Altarian was fully healed now, her head injury completely repaired by human medical technology. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Like I was never hurt," So-jin replied in wonder. "Your medicine is incredible." "We've had a lot of practice." The doctor smiled sadly. "When you live on a world that's constantly trying to kill you, you get very good at fixing people." "Doctor, can I ask you something personal?" "Of course. Do you ever regret coming from such a dangerous world? Do you wish you had been born somewhere peaceful like here?" Dr. Kyung-soo looked out the window at the beautiful planet below. It was lovely. Peaceful cities, clean air, safe streets. But after a moment, he shook his head. "No," he said. "Our world made us who we are. It taught us to value life, to protect the innocent, to never give up when people need help. Without that harsh beginning, we might have become just another species that only cares about itself." Back on the flagship, Admiral Dong-hyun received a priority message from Earth Command. It was marked urgent, so he opened it immediately. That message was simple. "Mission report received. Excellent work. Continue patrol duties. Also, intelligence reports indicate your actions have caused significant changes in pirate activity across 3 sectors. Raiders are avoiding any area where humans might respond to distress calls." Dong-hyun smiled. "Good. Maybe they wouldn't need to fight as many battles if the criminals learn to stay away from innocent people." "Sir," called Tae-min from his station, "I'm receiving a transmission from the Altarian survivors. They want to speak with you personally." "Put them through." Navigator Hyun-woo's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him stood many of the people the humans had rescued, including young Min-soo and Captain So-jin. "Admiral Dong-hyun," Hyun-woo began, "we wanted to thank you one more time before you leave. You saved our lives at great risk to yourselves." "No risk," the Admiral replied. "We were never in danger." "That's not what I meant, sir. You risked starting a war with the Krex Dominion. You risked making enemies across the galaxy. You risked your reputation and your people's safety, all for strangers you had never met." Dong-hyun was quiet for a moment. He hadn't thought of it that way, but the Altarian was right. By responding to the distress call, humanity had made a statement to the entire galaxy. "Navigator Hyun-woo," he said finally, "let me ask you something. If you found a child crying in the street, would you help them?" "Of course." "Even if you didn't know who they were? Even if helping them might cause you problems?" "Yes, of course." "Then you understand why we came. You were people in trouble, crying for help in the darkness. We heard you, and we came." The transmission ended and the human fleet prepared to leave. As they moved away from Peaceful Harbor, Admiral Dong-hyun thought about the question that every species seemed to ask about humans. Why did they help strangers? Why did they risk everything for people they didn't know? The answer was simple, even if others couldn't understand it. Humans helped because that's what good people did. They fought because someone had to stop the bullies. They risked their lives because innocent people deserved protection. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't political. It was just right. On Peaceful Harbor, Navigator Hyun-woo began writing his official report about the incident. But how could he describe what he had witnessed? How could he make his people understand? "The humans," he wrote, "are everything the stories say and nothing like them at the same time. They are the most feared warriors in the galaxy. But they use that power to protect the innocent. They are strangers who risked everything to save us, asking nothing in return." He paused, thinking about the right words. "They call them Deathworlders, because they come from a planet that tried to kill them. But I think the name means something else. They are called Deathworlders, because they bring death to those who prey on the innocent. They are the nightmare that hunts the nightmares. Far across the galaxy, The news of the battle reached the highest levels of every government. In the halls of the Galactic Council, emergency sessions were called. In the war rooms of military commanders, new strategies were developed. In the hideouts of pirates and raiders, desperate plans were made. But the message was clear to everyone. The humans were watching. They were listening for distress calls, and they would come, no matter how far, no matter how dangerous, no matter what the cost. The galaxy had learned something important about the species from the dangerous world. They were not conquerors seeking empire. They were not traders seeking profit. They were guardians, protecting anyone who needed protection, and that made them more terrifying than any army ever could. Commander In-Su of Terran Intelligence sat in his office on Earth, reading reports from across known space. The aftermath of the rescue was spreading like ripples in a pond. Pirate attacks were down 60% in the outer sectors. 3 major criminal organizations had issued orders to avoid civilian targets. The Krex Dominion had withdrawn all forces from the border regions. His final report to Fleet Command was brief. Mission successful. 1 Altarian colony ship rescued. 1 Krex raiding fleet destroyed. 0 human casualties. Intelligence indicates significant reduction in pirate activity across multiple sectors. Recommend continued patrol operations. But he added one personal note: the galaxy is learning that we keep our promises. When we say we protect the innocent, we mean it. This reputation is worth more than any weapon we could build. As night fell on Earth, children in cities around the world went to sleep safely. Their parents told them stories about brave explorers, kind doctors, and protectors who watched over good people everywhere. They didn't know that far away in the cold darkness between stars, those protectors were real. Human ships patrolled the void, listening for calls for help, ready to cross any distance to save strangers in need. The Deathworlders had become exactly what the galaxy needed most: proof that good people still existed, and that evil would never go unpunished as long as someone was strong enough to stop it. The legend was complete. The humans had shown the galaxy who they really were, and the galaxy would never forget.